Red Bull just lost control of the championship. Not on track. Not in qualifying. But inside an FIA meeting room in Bahrain. Today, the governing body officially approved a Mercedes engine concept that delivers up to 40 extra horsepower, and made it legal until the 1st of August. 40 horsepower. 12 races. Half a season with a built-in advantage. And Red Bull is furious. Because this is not a minor technical clarification. This is a compression ratio loophole that transforms 16:1, measured cold, into 18:1 once the engine heats up. More pressure. More efficiency. More straight-line speed. And in modern Formula 1, straight-line speed changes everything. The FIA says it protects the show. Red Bull says it distorts the championship. McLaren suddenly looks like a title favorite. Williams becomes a podium threat. And if Mercedes builds a points gap before summer, the second half of the season may not matter at all. Subscribe now, because what happened today in Bahrain could decide 2026 before we even reach August. What happened next in Bahrain changed the entire mood of the paddock. Because once the FIA confirmed the Mercedes engine was legal until the 1st of August, the reaction was immediate. Red Bull did not hide their frustration. Christian Horner left the meeting visibly tense. Engineers inside the garage were already recalculating race simulations. Because this was not a small clarification. This was a competitive shockwave. The rule states a compression ratio of 16:1, measured at ambient temperature. Mercedes complies perfectly in scrutineering. But once the engine reaches full operating temperature, the pistons expand by design. The ratio rises to 18:1. That extra pressure inside the cylinder means more efficient combustion. More energy extracted from the same sustainable fuel. Roughly 40 additional horsepower. And here is the part that makes Red Bull nervous. It is not just about peak speed. Higher compression improves fuel efficiency under race conditions. That means better energy deployment strategies. Shorter lift and coast phases. More flexibility when defending or attacking. So the advantage is structural, not cosmetic. Red Bull's RB22 may be aerodynamically superior. It may carry more cornering speed. But on power-sensitive tracks, straight-line speed dictates positioning. And the early calendar favors power. Jeddah, Montreal, Monza. Circuits where overtakes happen before the braking zone even begins. If Mercedes and its customers build momentum there, the championship math changes quickly. But here is where it becomes even more dangerous. McLaren runs the same engine. Today, on the first day of the second week of testing in Bahrain, Lando Norris topped the timing sheets. Testing times are never definitive. But the long-run data showed stability. Low degradation. Strong balance through medium and high-speed corners. Now combine that chassis with 40 extra horsepower. McLaren may not just compete. They may dominate the first half of the season. And Red Bull understands that the threat is not only Mercedes. It is the entire Mercedes-powered ecosystem. Williams benefits too. Their car is low drag by philosophy. Already efficient on straights. Add the strongest engine on the grid, and suddenly Williams is not fighting for points. They are fighting for podiums. That shifts the midfield balance completely. Ferrari took a different approach. Publicly, they criticized the decision. Privately, they appear to have negotiated technical flexibility around their experimental exhaust wing concept. In Formula 1, outrage often comes with strategic compromise. But Red Bull did not compromise. They are considering legal avenues under the International Sporting Code. Because from their perspective, allowing a performance advantage for 12 races effectively shapes the championship before Phase 2 even begins. And that is the key. This season is now divided. Phase 1, from Bahrain to Belgium, where Mercedes and its customers operate with a legalized compression advantage. Phase 2, from the Netherlands onward, where piston expansion will be limited to 0.5%, which makes the current solution impossible. But if Mercedes builds a large enough points gap before August, the second phase may only require damage control, not dominance. And here is the gamble. Mercedes must now develop two engines simultaneously. One to maintain reliability at 18:1 compression. Another compliant unit for after August. Two development programs under a cost cap. That splits resources. And if the second engine lacks reliability, everything built in Phase 1 could collapse. So while Red Bull feels threatened now, Mercedes is also walking a tightrope. Dominate early. Survive later. And as testing continues in Bahrain, the stopwatch is no longer the only measure of performance. The calendar is. Because every race before the 1st of August is an opportunity for Mercedes to build insulation. And every race Red Bull fails to win in that window could be a race that decides the championship. The real fight has already started. And it did not begin on the track. It began with a single line in the rulebook. Measured cold. Now the pressure shifts completely. Because Red Bull is no longer chasing pure performance. They are chasing survival. And that changes everything inside a Formula One team. When you believe the rival engine has a structural advantage, you start forcing solutions. More aggressive aero packages. Riskier cooling concepts. Sharper setup windows. And when you push development beyond comfort, reliability becomes fragile. That is the hidden danger Mercedes has created. They are not just faster. They are forcing Red Bull to react. And reacting in Formula One is rarely a position of strength. Max Verstappen now faces a different kind of season. Instead of controlling races from the front, he may have to defend more often on power circuits. Instead of dictating strategy, he may have to compromise. And even the smallest compromise in modern Formula One multiplies over a full race distance. But here is something even more critical. Points accumulation. If Mercedes and McLaren convert this advantage into consistent front-row lockouts during Phase 1, the championship gap can grow quietly. 10 points here. 7 points there. By the time August arrives, that gap could feel insurmountable. And once the new restriction on piston expansion comes into force, the dynamic shifts again. Mercedes will introduce a compliant engine. Lower compression. Lower peak efficiency. Less tested under race pressure. That is not a smooth transition. It is a forced reset. If reliability suffers even once during Phase 2, Red Bull could strike back. But to strike back, they must remain within reach. And that is the real danger for Red Bull right now. Because frustration can lead to overdriving. Overdriving leads to mistakes. And mistakes in a tightly contested championship are unforgiving. Meanwhile, inside Mercedes, the mindset is clear. Build insulation. Accumulate a margin large enough that Phase 2 becomes defensive racing. Not aggressive chasing. And do not underestimate the psychological factor. If rivals believe you have an advantage, they drive differently. They gamble more. They stretch tire life further than ideal. They take strategic risks. Sometimes those risks pay off. Often they do not. And that psychological pressure can be as powerful as horsepower. But the biggest question remains. Did the FIA just protect competitive balance, or unintentionally distort it? By allowing this concept until the 1st of August, they avoided immediate chaos. But they may have created a split season. One championship before summer. Another after. And Red Bull knows that if the first half slips away, no aerodynamic upgrade in Phase 2 will fully erase a massive points deficit. That is why today matters so much. Not because of lap times. Not because of testing headlines. But because the balance of power has shifted. And in modern Formula One, once momentum shifts, it is incredibly hard to pull it back. The clock is ticking toward August. And every race before that date is now a battleground for survival. For Mercedes, it is an opportunity. For Red Bull, it is a threat. And for the rest of the grid, it is a reminder that championships are not always decided on Sunday. Sometimes they are decided in a meeting room, with a single sentence in the rulebook. Measured cold. But here is where the situation becomes even more delicate. Because this is not just about engines. It is about trust. When the FIA released Technical Directive 003-26, confirming temporary legality until the 1st of August, they essentially admitted two things at the same time. First, Mercedes followed the written rule. Second, the written rule did not capture the intended limit. That gray zone is what has shaken the paddock today. Red Bull believes the championship is being manipulated through interpretation. Mercedes believes they are being rewarded for innovation. And the rest of the grid is watching carefully. Because this sets a precedent. If exploiting wording earns you half a season of advantage, teams will push even harder next time. Now imagine the internal conversations at Red Bull tonight in Bahrain. Do they invest heavily in an aggressive upgrade package for the first races? Or do they conserve resources for Phase 2, when Mercedes must downgrade? That strategic fork in the road is dangerous. Choose wrong, and the season slips away. Choose right, and you still need consistency. Meanwhile, Mercedes faces a ticking clock. They have until August to maximize output. But the compliant engine they introduce afterward will not be as refined. Less compression means less efficiency. Less efficiency means different fuel mapping. Different mapping affects cooling requirements. Cooling changes aero packaging. Which means the entire car balance could shift mid-season. This is not just swapping pistons. It is redesigning internal philosophy. And here is the part that could explode later. If Mercedes wins multiple races before August, Red Bull may escalate their protest. Appeals under the International Sporting Code are not off the table. If that happens, we could see legal battles running parallel to the championship. Points contested. Results questioned. Political tension rising. Formula One thrives on competition. But prolonged controversy can fracture credibility. And the FIA knows that. They chose to save the spectacle by avoiding an immediate ban. But they also created two realities. On track, Mercedes has a measurable advantage. Off track, the legitimacy of that advantage is debated. Now consider the drivers again. If Lando Norris senses a genuine title opportunity in Phase 1, his mindset shifts. He will not settle for podiums. He will push for wins. And if McLaren builds a constructor lead early, even when Mercedes downgrades, the points cushion may remain. For Red Bull, the challenge is psychological endurance. Every race before August feels like a ticking clock. Every straight-line overtake by a Mercedes-powered car reinforces the perception of imbalance. And perception influences morale. Morale influences performance. The championship may not be lost in a single race. It may erode slowly. One compromised strategy at a time. One defensive move at a time. One missed opportunity at a time. And then August arrives. The new rule limits piston expansion to 0.5%. The 18-to-1 era ends. Mercedes introduces the compliant unit. Performance narrows. But if the gap is already large, narrowing may not be enough. That is the gamble. Dominate early, defend later. For Red Bull, the objective is brutally simple. Stay close. Stay within striking distance. Because if they allow the first phase to spiral out of control, the second phase becomes symbolic. And as Bahrain testing continues, the atmosphere feels different. Not because of lap times, but because every engineer, every strategist, every driver understands something fundamental. The season has already split in two, before a single championship point has been awarded. And if Red Bull cannot contain the damage before the 1st of August, this new rule may not just help Mercedes. It may define the entire era.